Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Foliage. So I had a question related with Cocopeat sometime back wherein the person asked me, can we grow plants only in Cocopeat, nothing else but only Cocopeat? So the answer is unfortunately you cannot, because Cocopeat is basically like a soil conditioner. It is not appropriate growing media for your plants. Now of course there are certain plants like philodendrons, syngoniums or pothos which are basically epiphytes in nature and which can be grown without soil, but they cannot be grown only in Cocopeat. You would require other materials in order to prepare your soilless media. So the things are like you would require leca, you would require activated charcoal, perlite or pumice, and then there are other things like cocoa chips and the tree bark. All of these things, when they are put together, they tend to become into a soilless media. So the only thing that is not used is soil, but rest all of the other things are used. People also tend to use a little bit of cocopeat and peat moss or sphagnum moss in that soilless media, but it is only limited to certain type of plants, as I said, the epiphytic plants, whereas your other plants will not do quite well in a soilless media. Example, flowering plants. If I have to give you a specific flowering plant, let's take a rose plant. You cannot grow a rose plant in a soilless media. So in the same way, Cocopeat is like a soil conditioner. It might be mentioned on the packet itself. As you can see over here, it is a soil conditioner. Basically meaning that if you have soil, if you want to make your soil very light, if you want to make your soil very loose, porous, well draining, you want something that tends to retain the moisture, then Cocopeat tends to come in use. Cocopeat will retain slight amount of moisture, especially our foliage plants. A lot of our plants prefer a slight amount of moisture, and that is what Cocopeat tends to do. Now again, this is Cocopeat. Please do not get confused with Cocopeat and peat moss. Both of them are completely different. A lot of people get confused because of the word peat, but you need to understand what are the words before and after the peat. In Cocopeat, it's clearly mentioned Cocopeat, which means that it is derived or it is procured from coconut husk, which has been turned into powder and then it is made into a block like this. Whereas peat moss, it's basically derived from moss, so that is completely different from our Cocopeat. So if you're planning to use Cocopeat, it will be mentioned on the packet itself what exactly it is. It is basically a soil conditioner. You cannot grow your plant only in Cocopeat. Apart from that, Cocopeat does not have its own nutrition. You have to add some kind of fertilizer. Liquid fertilizer is going to work out really well. Apart from water retention, it has nothing that can hold. Apart from that, Cocopeat is usually used for maintaining a slight amount of moisture, because Cocopeat tends to retain moisture. So that is a very good addition, because I tend to use soil media. I don't go for soilless media because my environment will not support soilless media. My environment is very dry. The humidity levels are very low, so if I have to go with soilless media, it is going to be very difficult to grow plants. It's usually better for people who are from a very humid environment. Soilless media tends to work out really well, or if you're growing your plants indoor, soilless media tends to work out really well. But for me, with a humidity level of 20% or 19%, soilless media is not going to work out really well. So I tend to use a mix of Cocopeat, soil, pumice or sand or perlite. All of this combination tends to work out really well for my environment. And also, in order to use Cocopeat, you cannot use it directly in dry form. You have to take it and put it in water. You have to let it soak. Once it gets soaked, now this block looks very small, and once I put it into the water, it will turn probably 3 times or 4 times of its size what it's there right now. So this is in a compact dry form. You cannot use it in a dry form. You have to put it in water. You have to make it wet. That's when the volume increases, and then you can either mix it with soil, or if you have your soilless media, as I mentioned earlier, you can go with that. So it is pretty simple to use your Cocopeat. I think I've made a couple of videos on my channel. You can definitely check them out. That's about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep planting.